So Cryptopolitan, this is a screenshot taken from them. And, basically speaking, I'm going to show you some of their concerns, okay? Hopefully this is big enough for you guys. If not, it's okay. I mean, I'll just read what it says. So number one, like it says, no public appearances. This is, we're talking about Jasmy here. It says the absence of videos, interviews, or public appearances where executives like Sato Kazamasa, Sato, even right there, you guys don't got it right. Kazamasa Sato, but I guess it's backwards in Japan. Anyway, discuss cryptocurrency is unusual for a supposedly pioneering company. Okay, like I also mentioned before, you have people that are your PR reps. Hara represents that, right? He conveys all that information. You have seen Kazamasa Sato, though, in interviews, right? So it's not like that hasn't been there. We have shared that on the live. But in regards to no public appearances, I mean, like, what more do you want? I mean, you also got to keep in mind, like, some people say, oh, I want to see Kunitake Ando doing a public interview. Well, there has been. There may not have been as much recently as you would like to see. But what I want to show you basically is there has been, appearances. And, one key thing that I want to mention is like, some people say, well, what appearances? Well, here's just one for mentioning it, because why not mention it? Maybe some people get tired of me mentioning it. IVS Crypto 2023, right? We always talk about IVS Crypto 2023. How about the Teams Web3 Summit? Did we forget about all these things that happened a few months ago? How about Tokyo Expo 2023? How about that other expo that was in Hong Kong? So that right there is at least 4 different ones. And yes, you had Hara at every single one. And you also had the other guy that, is the, I guess you could say the Jasmy ambassador from Hong Kong, right? He's always at the meetings, okay? Again, there's public appearances. We don't necessarily have to have Ondo. You just need somebody to properly represent it. I mean, isn't that the whole point of Hara's role? I don't understand why people don't understand that. All right, let's jump into the next part real quick. No verified social media. Lack of verification on Twitter or other platforms raises questions about the legitimacy of the company's public face. You got to be kidding me. I thought we already, saw this a long time ago. So some people say, well, how so? Well, let me show you how so. So number one, let's just take you straight to Hara. All right. And this was something that was mentioned in the past. Hara is an AI, people will say. He's not an AI. Right. And some people wanted to see more than just pictures of Hara. So for one, there's a picture of Hara, but people want to see video. We saw that. IVS Crypto 2023, Teams Web3 Summit, literally in the trailer for the, the summary of what happened over that, blockchain week, literally shows them at one particular part, right? You see him and he's in motion. So there's that. And then, yes, IVS Crypto 2023, we showed you a lot of motion of him. But then people are like, well, he needs to have verified, he needs to be verified. Boom, there you go. Hara right here has what? The Twitter blue check mark. He's verified. Remember back in the day where, if you weren't verified, basically speaking, I mean, people have to say, hey, follow, for instance, Hara, like follow me at Hara_Jasmy CFO. There's other ones that are close to it where it's like another underscore. Those are fake. But that's another point of being verified, right? Is so people can know that you're the real account and that you're not fake. And there's other benefits, right? You can have a longer thread. You can have, instead of having like 45 characters or whatever, you can have a really big outline. I did that because I obviously do deep dives. So there's that, right? He's done more than enough public appearances. Let's jump to the next part of what is basically being complained about. How this lack of legal paperwork. Now, here's more of the juicier stuff as far as me really trying to give you guys some good stuff. So this part, again, is anybody here doing their proper research? Is just people trying to skim what's off the top? Could be. But lack of legal paperwork, really? It says, if Jasmy Coin claims to be Japan's first legally operable coin, They should have the legal documents to back this up. The absence of these documents is alarming. Just do your own research. Hence why we call these shows DYR with Max. Join our community. Do the research. So I will help you do the research. So let's jump into this. And basically speaking, all you got to do is a simple search. Now, some people are going to say, a simple search here, Max, leads you to the Jasmy site. And of course, they're going to say good things about themselves. Okay, fine, right? I'm with you. But I will at least cite this first, and then we'll jump into somewhere else. So number one, all right, and you could verify this for yourself, or anybody can verify this for themselves. Like it says, Jasmy IoT platform. Its only token, Jasmy, which, by the way, ticker symbol is JMY according to those Japanese exchanges, right? Listed differently on CMC, okay? And we know that, is the first Japanese blockchain project approved to list on the Japanese digital currency exchange. True. This is why it gets labeled also the Bitcoin in Japan for this next quote. It is Japan's first legal and compliant digital currency, which is of epoch-making significance for the Japanese digital currency market. Right. So who is in charge of allowing that to happen, for them to be the first regulatory, legal and regulatory compliant digital currency in Japan? Well, the FSA, right? And like I've always mentioned, who are some of the key players, like who's part of JVCEA and FSA and so on, right? Well, we always reference Genki Oda, especially with BitPoint and SBI Japan, so on. Like, he is a decision maker. So that's valid. Anybody can view that. Anybody can look more into it. Does Max have something in regards to looking into that? Well, of course. I'm not going to just show you guys some text on the Jasmy screen. So I want to show you another source, okay? And this is from Phoenix.com. Some of you guys know about Phoenix.com. Like it says, Jasmy Coin, the platform is powered online for the native token. Jasmy Coin is an Ethereum token, ERC20. We know it doesn't say it there, but we know it's ERC20. The first cryptocurrency to become legally compliant in Japan and listed on Japanese cryptocurrency exchange. Literally just another source, okay? Reiterating what I just mentioned, but some people don't want to see it from the Jasmy site. Do we have another source? Boom, another source. All right. Well, Max, you did state that you have a little bit more in regards to this. Yes. Let's quote some laws, okay? Because I do deep dive research, and this is something I like to do. So for all the fudders out there who want to reference just a chart and want to have a stupid meme coin of a dog whose name is ME and just be like, Jasmy scam. All right. Look at this. According to Japan's Law on Correcting the Capital Clearing Delivery Settlement, which was issued all the way back in 2017, a new exchange to be opened in Japan must be reported to the FSA. What does the FSA stand for? Financial Services Agency. Basically, like, the SEC, but honestly, that's an insult because they get it, we don't. Or I should say we don't. The SEC don't. So like it says, reported to the Financial Services Agency, right, and then must pass the review of both Japan Virtual and Crypto Assets Exchange Association, JVCEA. Again, enter in Mr. Genki Oda. And the Financial Services Agency. So it's both, literally both. Finally, the relevant documents should be submitted to the Prime Minister of Japan. Right. So who was it way back then? Right, Mr. Shinzo Abe. Does Max have anything in regards to Mr. Shinzo Abe? Well, we'll get to that in a second. But it says, which will take effect after being sealed. Only in this way can we finally get a license to engage in the business of the encrypted asset exchange. Now, the point is this, okay? The point is due diligence, applying and being regulatory compliant. They've already more than proven themselves. I mean, anybody can look more into this if they choose to do more of that type of research. Well, Max, this is a lot of text on the screen. Do you really sincerely have something that has proof of this? And the answer is yes. Well, can you show me? Well, absolutely I can. Let's full screen this. So here's an actual screenshot. And of course, this is cited from Reddit, but this was screenshotted from fsa.go.jp from somebody's cell phone and so on. And at the time, you could view it. I don't know if you can view it now, but the point is, actually, you can't view it now. But there's other ways of going through other avenues to view all this. But the point is, when you go to there, you see other ones listed in Japanese, such as Bitcoin, Ethereum. There's XRP. There's Polkadot. Look at that, guys. Plain as day, right? I mean, I'm not making this up. Polkadot. There's Chainlink, right? But look what happens when we go further down. Boom, JMY. And Jasmy's ticker symbol is JMY. Okay? So there is a little bit of that proof, if you will. All right, let's jump into a little bit more of what we have. So there's also other things in regards to some of this FUD. And, you know, I hate to do Fudbusters every once in a while, but I feel like I have to do it. All right, because people just don't know. They don't do the extra research, and it's okay. So, yeah, you know, like it says, the absence of these documents is alarming, right? Well, basically speaking, I mean, is there really a lack of paperwork, or is just a lack of people's understanding of the whole thing? And I think it's just that. It's the lack of understanding and the lack of understanding who they are with. Let me show you guys this. It goes on to mention that the new token listing, I mean, again, this is a few years back, is not particularly complicated, but it is not only does it take a long time, but it's also uncertain whether it will be approved by the Financial Services Agency, but it was. There's no legal provision that the listing of new tokens in Japan must be subject to final review of the FSA. But the truth is, and again, it's just the opposite. And I like this outline. Look at this for a second. They have already prepared for all the what ifs of people like Cryptopolitan and their community and so on. So it says, first of all, it's necessary to inform the FSA in advance and submit all relevant information. Then the Financial Services Agency will comprehensively review all kinds of potential risks of newly issued encrypted assets from the perspective of protecting investment users and evaluate the appropriateness and safety of the assets. The Japanese government should be responsible to the majority of the investment users, including determining whether there is a security risk and whether it causes losses to investors. For the above risk control purposes, the Financial Services Agency will strictly evaluate the listing of a new encrypted asset. Right. It's due diligence. You know, your cryptocurrency on a Japanese exchange has to be regulatory compliant, but they also have to make sure that when, that they do their own compliancy as well. Yeah, it's in combination with a third-party institution. FSA has also prepared an application documentation with guidelines with hundreds of pages. Again, Jasmy has already done all this, okay? And again, people can, if they, want to look into it more or know Japanese, I mean, I get there's a few more steps to go through. But you got to keep in mind, it's a different landscape, if you will. It's a different area of the world, right? We're not going to necessarily have all the best English interpretation, but it's there. Now, for some people are saying, well, let's jump back to what we have in regards to this. Like it says, for instance, what was this part real quick? They should have like some kind of lawyer, right? In regards to the legal side of things. My answer is, okay, that's a great statement. But of course they have some lawyer. And here it is. Hideno Toyoshima. And then, like, what's some of his background? This guy's got a robust background, dating all the way back to 1962. We passed the national bar examination. And some of these guys have helped submit those legal, documentation, if you will. It's there. Legal advisor, right? So if it's all there and this all pans out, is it just a case of people just want to stir the pot? I think so. The last part, ambiguity in associations being connected to reputed companies like Bajit and Sony isn't sufficient proof of legitimacy. Clear partnerships or endorsements would be more assuring. Are you kidding? You really want clear partnerships or endorsements? All right, let me remind people of just that. So number one, how about this for size? Avita. We're always talking about Avita. Is that not a clear partnership? Number two, Care Project, who's also partnered with the Care Project. Ripple. How about recently, PillLab and Bifrost? We talked about getting to that point of having mass adoption. Those two are key factors for mass adoption. Mofiria, that was a recent partnership. Remember the whole thing with the vein in the fingers, right? And verifying identity through a different form other than just, a thumbprint, right? Verifying veins in a person's hand. That's crazy stuff. ASUS, or some people call it ASUS. I'm just reading some of my own notes here. How about, and I joke around with Mr. Magic Power, the Rice Crop Consortium, right? Yes, the Rice Crop Consortium. That's a legit thing. We talk about carbon credits and talk about, Jasmy taking things to a whole other level in regards to, that type of industry. All right. I'm not going to get back into that. We did an outline in regards to that. We could talk about War XSS, Wars, Scheme, which is SXIM, Tizawit, WITS, right? We understand, remember that WITS leak literally on the window? That was a partnership, but maybe, somebody let that leak out and it wasn't supposed to, and then they went with it. How about Aplix? I did a deep dive about Aplix. I said Kujit maybe 6 months ago was a big key factor moving forward for Jasmy. BitPoint, obviously, Mr. Genki Oda, Bajit, like was also mentioned. And of course, how about this one? Did we all of a sudden forget about Travala? So again, that is pretty clear in regards to endorsements, and that is really reassuring. All right, how about this? No coverage in Japanese news. The lack of coverage in Japanese media is suspicious for a Japanese company in cutting edge field. There has been news, right? It's just that you may not be seeing the news here in the United States, but there is news. How do we know that there's news? Jasmy secure blockchain PCs, for instance, right? The whole thing with Avita did make recent news, and even in Japan and even in other areas like Hong Kong and so on. That is news. Just because you don't see it here locally doesn't mean it's not news. A little bit more about this. No mention of apps. In the current age, not having a mobile application or even discussing development is odd and could indicate a lack of technical progress. Not true. How do we know that's not true? Again, let's get back to this for a second. So, basically, PillLab, right, and Bifrost, what are they looking to do? Develop some apps. Absolutely, right? And we talk about, getting that mass adoption through some of these specific apps. So is this another case that people are just, far behind? I think so. All right, next one. Hosting in the US and Canada for a Japanese company hosting itself outside of Japan may raise questions about why they're doing so, although it's not necessarily a red flag. All right, I'm just going to play this, and this will speak for itself. All right, let's go ahead and play this. Here we go.
I want the best and the brightest Japanese talent with superb technology and high motivation to dive themselves into Silicon Valley. We have too many middle-sized companies and SMEs which cannot break out of local markets despite having world-class technological capacity that we can boast to the world. Out of such companies, we will select 200 companies in the next 5 years to send to Silicon Valley.
All right, to send to Silicon Valley. Think about what he mentioned. All right, so sending to Silicon Valley is the United States. So why is there so much fear, uncertainty, and doubt when you're literally seeing former, rest in peace, Shinzo Abe, former prime minister of Japan, literally just making that, right? So is that such a bad thing if you have literally the prime minister, the former prime minister, literally saying we're going to send 200, here's part of the plan, for we can expand into the United States? Well, Jasmy, Boom, there you go. That's not, like I said, it's not a red flag. But at the same time, is anybody really understanding the things that are behind the scenes? That comes from the head guy of Japan. It'd be like having our own president of the United States saying, hey, we're going to send 200 of our own companies to Tokyo, right? And then some Yahoo in Japan saying, well, no, that doesn't sound right. We don't want some of you guys coming over here. You're an American-based company. Give me a break. It's called, free enterprise for a reason. All right, just a tad bit more, and we will get back into the comments here in a bit. I want to show you this because this is a Fudbuster special, if you will. So the next part, I'm going to share this on the screen, and it states, where is it? Outdated media, old photos, and videos can indicate a lack of current activity or the company is reusing old assets for a different venture. Okay, there's been a lot of new press in regards to Jasmy. So again, I just think people just need to do simple searches. And, for the people, they're just like, well, how do I do that, Max? I'm new to Jasmy. I don't know how to do that. All you got to do is literally go to, and I'll show you this right now. You go to Twitter, all right? And you go to like Reddit and places like that. Let me just show you what I'm talking about. So for one, you can do it one of two ways. You do it this way, $ Jasmy. You pull that up. And then you see people like this, Dip Metaverse, reading about the white paper. Look at all, we're talking about partnerships, right? Look at this, for crying out loud. Shout out to Dip. He reached out to me, gave me some support, and I really appreciate that. Hey guys, it's just all doing your proper research if you're wanting to do the research. Mention some key things here: Dyson, Panasonic, Levi's. He has a reason for that. And of course, maybe I get into what he's mentioning here in a second, but see how quick that was? What's he talking about here just briefly? He was rereading the Jasmy management white paper and a screenshot of what he thinks is very important in the paragraphs with some takeaways. Transcosmos partnership. I didn't even mention that earlier. Yes, Transcosmos. Did we forget about Transcosmos? So again, guys, educating yourself, if you're just going off of what other fudders are feeding you in regards to your, I guess you could say, research, are you getting proper research? Or are you just getting misinformation or just FUD? Again, do your own research. That's why we have this. So that's one way of doing it is, Jasmy like that. Another way of doing it is like this. Pull that up for a second. Oh, Neo X Tricks, shout out to him. Look at all the research here. Beautiful research. Great content creator, right? We can, obviously I'll be talking about that maybe tomorrow. Talk about digital twin, everything highlighted. Public appearance. There's Mr. Hara, right? Jasmy Road to the year 2049. Big stuff, right? But the key thing is, you're not going to find this information on a simple Google search. Community-driven news is so much more different than mainstream news. Don't get me wrong, you want to pay attention to mainstream news, but you got to keep in mind, if you're going to be educated on any of this stuff, you have to, go further. Reddit, Twitter, watch people like myself and so on, keep you informed. All right, I think there might be just a tad bit. I know this is quite the outline. The last part was says, I don't have the screen up, but, using emojis in the AMAs. So what? So what if they want to use emojis in the AMAs? Maybe they want to reach not just an American base of people, but maybe they want to reach their own base of people, like the younger generation, the Gen Zs and so on. There's nothing wrong with that, And like we also mentioned on the live show, Gen Z represents the biggest percentage of population of future, like who are we going to pass the keys to on the next generation for DLT and blockchain? It's Gen Z. They represent, I think, about 28% of that pie graph of investors, right? In second place is some of the other ones. As much as Gen X and some of the other guys want it to be, you guys and so on, right? And I respect you guys, right? Because I'm almost right with you there. Technically I'm Gen X/Gen Y, right in that little 1981 area. But the point is, right, sometimes you got to recognize the cultures, the differences. Maybe they want emojis in the Discord and stuff like that. And, Is that so harmful? Is that really hurting anybody? No, not really. So that concludes today's Jasmy Fudbuster special. And I thank you for listening to it. At the end of the day, know what you hold, know why you hold it. The research trumps FUD 110%. Don't go buy just a simple chart. Take the real, true deep dives. You'd be glad that you did.